Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, joined by attorney Jessup, and we're going to talk about applying for disability insurance benefits. And Stephen, this video is designed to let people know about how we help people to apply for disability benefits and what they should expect, what the process is like, and why it's important also to have someone who's been through this thousands of times to guide them so that they're in the best position possible to get their benefits approved. So right off the bat, for the person, whether they're seeking short-term or long-term disability insurance benefits, it's going to be basically the same process. But what's the most important document that you first need to review to determine whether or not they even have a chance of getting disability benefits?
The policy. Every policy is unique to itself. Some companies write very similar policies, but language can vary a lot. And even after doing this for as long as I have, I sometimes review policies that make me go, whoa, I've never seen that before. So really need to see the policy to have an idea of, like you said, chance of success, how long the policy may last, various different factors. So the policy is the key, with which try to determine where things go from.
And then I think what's so important is that we always offer this free initial consultation. And the first question, and the person hopefully will call us after this video to ask us their questions. And I say, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to get out of this policy? Obviously, a lot of people say, well, I'd like to get paid. That's the obvious answer. But the real thing is, how significant is your medical condition? Is it a chronic condition that's going to improve? Did you fracture your leg and you're worried about being out for a year? Is this 2 months? Is this 3 months? The majority of clients that we represent are long-term chronic medical conditions where those people believe they're not going to be able to go back to the job they were doing, and they've likely been hanging on in their job for 6, 7 months or years, or they just recently got a diagnosis with something and they've been treating for a little bit. And the reason it's important to say what are your goals is because when you say you're going to read that policy is the definitions don't always stay the same of disability, and we want to set the claim up from the beginning so that benefits continue for as long as the claimant wants those benefits. And to that effect, talk about when a person applies, how important is the medical support going to be right out of the box?
I mean, really, it's the real basis. The insurance company, first and foremost, besides your claim forms, you're going to get your medical records. And they're going to look at those medical records to see if there's even enough treatment and information in there from your doctors that would support, the impairments you're saying on your forms are preventing you from working. So if the medical records aren't documented properly, you're not going, or it's sporadic at best, the chance of success in winning getting an approved claim, it's going to drop off significantly.
And so since we're talking about the disability insurance companies are going to request every single medical record, how important is the documentation by the doctors of what's in the records?
That's the heart of the medical records, what the doctor documents. And we see a lot that, a lot of doctors don't take good notes. They don't, we say they don't take records for insurance company purposes, but at the end of the day, sometimes they don't even take the best of records in general. And we've had clients been like, yeah, I looked at them, I don't know what my doctor's doing. I tell them I have these problems, it doesn't show up in my notes. Or I think one of the bigger problems are, especially with the automation of a lot of them, taking the notes, is that there's inconsistencies. Where the generalized check a box thing can make it seem like you're fine, but then when the doctor has a room for discussion, talking about all the issues you have and problems, and an insurance company will always kind of lean towards the portion of the medical record that supports them without reading the heart of it. So the medical records and the way your doctor documents them, that is such a huge portion of the fight.
And I think what happens is almost all doctors have to transcribe medical records now, meaning they have to be typed, and then they're using software, and a lot of times it's check the box. And unfortunately, you get someone who goes in with, say, they have a chronic back problem, and then it says musculoskeletal, no complaint, it's standard, no complaints of numbness, radiating pain, tingling, sensation, and they check no. And then the disability company goes and says, well, you didn't complain about any of these things, and it's completely inconsistent, and that becomes a problem. So I know right away when we're representing a claimant, even the initial application stage, before we're even going to submit the application, we're reviewing all of the medical records, we're coaching and guiding the claimants as to what they need to tell their doctors, and then telling the doctors to make sure they're putting these particular things in the records, making sure the doctors are putting in the complaints of the claimants, and why is it so important that even the complaints and the limitations that the claimant's having are in the records?
Because it memorializes it. It shows that this has been an issue, this is a problem. It's all about what your restrictions may be. So your insurance company is going to look at your diagnosis and they're like, all right, well, you have a diagnosis, but to them your diagnosis isn't a disability. They need to see restrictions that are stemming from that. So if you have a bad back, back pain's keeping you from working, you want those records to talk about what the problems are, sensations, issues with physical stamina, pain ratings, things like that, because that's really what the insurance company wants. They want to see that nexus between your medical diagnosis and how it's preventing you from doing the job.
A lot of people call and they're hesitant. They think, why do I need a lawyer now during this application stage? And what I always tell them is, first of all, we can look right away at the file in the position that it's in and tell them with a pretty high degree of certainty whether or not we think they're going to get approved or not. The reason for that is because we've not only helped thousands of people to apply, we've reviewed tens of thousands of denial letters, so we basically know how the claim rep is trained, how their upper level management's trained, everyone at the company, and what they need in order to approve a claim. So right away we can say, look, you don't have this, or that, we know they're going to deny you. So that's a critical thing. The other thing that comes up is people say, well, it looks like I have a lawyer, like I'm scared of something or I'm going to argue with them. But what do you tell people about why it's advantageous, why the insurance companies actually encourage someone to potentially have a lawyer as opposed to looking at it as you're scared or you're looking to hide something?
You know, I believe what it is, and even talking to claims managers, especially on complicated cases, it's because we know what they need. You know, a lot of times people, it's a very personal experience for them with the disability, and they feel like the insurance company may be attacking them. But when we talk to the potential client, go, no, this is pretty standard. This is what they're going to need, X, Y, and Z. So the fact that we're emotionally removed from it, we know what needs to be done, what the insurance company needs, and it's also easier for them because we provide that stuff. They say, hey, we need X, Y, and Z. And if we know that that's stuff that they're entitled to, we get them X, Y, and Z. So it helps with the presentation of the information to them so they can make their decisions on it. So we work hand in hand just with the claims person on that level to finalize the review and stuff.
And then the other thing is that, look, it's stressful enough for a claimant that they're not working. They don't know if the income is going to come in. But there's usually tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake, especially for the person who believes they're going to be on claim for many years to come. And disability insurance companies do play games with claimants in the sense of, we didn't get this form, you didn't send us this even though you faxed it twice, your doctor didn't send us this particular thing, or we want to talk to you, or we want to send you to this exam. And claimants don't know what they can or can't do. They do send things, the disability companies act like they didn't get it, the disability company isn't responding timely. But I can tell you, when we're involved, they don't play those games.
Yes, that's very true.
And even so, we know from all of the major companies that when a lawyer's involved, they have to notify like a supervisor, and it puts their feet to the fire. And they have internal rules they have to follow, and it eliminates all those things. The other advantage of us being involved in the claim is that we're the only voice. Talk about that and why that takes a lot of pressure off the claimant.
Yeah, so there's not going to be that direct communication with the claimant. You don't have to worry about getting a call. Now, granted, insurance companies still will sometimes do it, but you basically have hired someone to handle that stress for you. We're the ones communicating with the insurance company. So if they want to know something, we speak to the client, we get the information from the client, then we present it. And we present it not, in a lot of ways, in the way that's going to fit our plan to get you on claim within the context of the policy. Not to mention, one of the good things about it is for us is if we get specific questions from the insurance company, we generally know what they're looking for or what they might be trying to do under the policy. So it allows us, through the client with the information, to shape our response to try to counter what they may be doing, under the policy kind of thing. So it works out really good for the client in that sense.
Now, some of the claimants who are watching this video may have already contacted the company, which is okay. Talk about that process of what a claimant should be aware of, even from the moment they contact the company before they've even submitted anything.
Yeah, so if you give them notice, forms will go out and there will be follow-up on it. The insurance company will continue to follow up because they have a duty, in a reporting, and they want that. So they will continue to follow up throughout it. I don't know if you necessarily need to worry about them surveilling you at that point, but you are on their radar. So if you do, say, reach out to them, then decide you want to file a claim 8 months later, their notations about you are 8 months previously. So when they're even reviewing your new filing, they're also going to take a look at what's going on there. You know, a lot of the common things we'll see with the insurance companies, especially, you know, most people, it's a chronic medical condition. Well, you've been able to work with this, so what's changed and things like that. So when you give them notice and you're on their radar, that's an information point for them to work from, regardless of when you later decide to file a claim.
And they're going to call you right away. And one of the most fundamental things of every disability application is a date of disability. Why is that so critical in a disability claim?
You know, in the broadest sense of it is the idea of, does their medical information support disability as of that date? Is there enough to support that, you know, you would have restrictions and limitations that day? You know, when we get into specifics of if you have a pre-existing condition limitation in the policy, you give them the wrong day by a day, that's it, regardless of what you're promised. We've seen that. So that's black and white. There's not a lot of, you know, mercy when it comes to those. So pre-existing condition limitations in it. Sometimes these active employment, you know, provisions in policies. So there's a lot that goes into it. And if your policy also has some level, and a lot of people don't know, especially under the employer-provided policies, if you do have some form of partial or residual disability, and you give them a concrete date of disability because you're like, well, this is why I stopped working, that's what they're going to run with when you may have had, been able to make some type of loss of earnings claim prior to that. So knowing the day, barring a catastrophic loss, like what's clear as day, this is when it happened, it can be a little bit of decision making there.
There's also a lot of strategy that can be put in place depending upon the definition of disability. And we have videos about the difference between total and residual disability, which is also known as partial. But very often there may be a situation where someone thinks maybe I can continue working in a limited capacity, still keep my job, keep some of my benefits. And you may be eligible for benefits that way, not necessarily having to stop work completely. So lots of different options depending upon what the policy says, and that's a strategy that we'll put in place for a claimant when they call us. And then the other thing is that a claimant may call us, we'll review the medical records. We help people way before they even call the disability company and help what we call build this roadmap to get you there. Because at the end of the day, when the claimant submits their claim, it's basically the claim's only as good as it is on paper. So very often they'll be like, yeah, I went to my internal medicine doctor and he documented this, and people think that like their word is enough. They told the doctor said okay. Well, the doctor has no reason to doubt what you're telling them, but then there's additional medical specialists that a claimant may not be thinking they really need. And the way we guide the claimants is go out and see every possible doctor you can that could possibly give you some kind of cure or improvement to your medical condition, so that by the time you submit your application, you can basically be like, I tried every single thing. I went to every type of doctor, I took every type of medication, I did every type of therapy, I did every type of diagnostic test, to the point where disability company can basically be like, there is nothing more this person could do, and obviously they tried to do everything. But that's not an obvious thing for a claimant. It's not obvious for the doctors because they don't know what the insurance companies want. And that's the way we guide the claimants through this process. Also, the last thing I want to touch on is how important is it to present the occupational duties based upon the definition of disability?
Well, that's the other big component. It's your medical condition, one, preventing you from doing, the substantial material duties of your occupation we'll go with. So an understanding of what that is. A lot of policies will have this national economy standard where they get to look how it's performed, generally speaking, not for your location, employer, things like that. But we find a lot that the insurance company misses the mark on what the actual job is. Sales, for instance, is a real big one. There's a difference between inside and outside sales and the physical requirements and certain things of that. So having a good and clear and concise, and if you're thinking about filing, think about getting a copy of your formal job description from your employer. It may take a while for the insurance company to get that, so get this stuff ahead of time. And if there's things that need to be done, if there's something unique about the occupation, that needs to be clarified, having that clarification information ready with the submission. You know, and it's just like, you know, most things, everyone's occupation is very unique to them. You know, you have your general themes of it, but there are, you know, different variations, especially if you get into medical profession, legal profession, stuff like that, where there's a lot of offshoots within it. So it's not only the medical, it's the occupational and how those two come together.
And how do the disability insurance companies usually minimize someone's occupation?
The physical demand level, like for instance, we're lawyers, according to the Department of Labor, we have a sedentary job. A lot of professionals do. And you know, like I talk to clients, I say all the time, if my job was as easy as being able to sit for 6 hours and lift up to 10 pounds occasionally, I'd love life, you know? But that's not the duty of job, but that's what they try to do. They try to strip it to the lowest common denominator. And even when they have their medical doctors look at your file, a lot of those doctors don't know what you did. They're not looking at your occupational duties. They wouldn't know, for instance, that I'm a lawyer. They just want to see if I could sit at a desk, if I had sedentary ability. And if they came back, yes, the insurance company would argue, well, we think you can do a sedentary job. You know, and they just totally miss the mark and what the actual material and substantial duties of that job are.
Right. So they strip out every cognitive requirement of the job. They totally ignore the pain level that you may be suffering and just basically say, well, we think you could sit in a chair for 6 to 8 hours a day. You could do your job. Doesn't matter what skills, whether fatigue.
Just if you're a warm body in a chair, to them you can work.
All right. And unfortunately, that's the norm of how they look at these claims. So, you know, for someone who's considering filing for disability benefits, we highly encourage them to, at least at a minimum, reach out to us, send us a copy of your disability insurance policy, whether it's short-term or long-term. You may have multiple disability insurance policies. We always provide an initial free consultation. And what that means is we're going to review your disability policy, we're going to discuss your medical treatment, and we're going to let you know right away what we think your chances are to get paid your disability benefits, and also let you know how we think we could assist you. So our clients are located all over the country, so no matter where you live, we're able to help you. We also encourage you, if you're not ready to reach out to a lawyer or not ready to file your claim at this time, spend some time on our website, check out a lot of the information we have that's specific about your disability company, your occupation, your medical condition. You can always subscribe to our YouTube channel as we're putting out these types of videos on a weekly basis, and it will continue to give you good tips that will help you with your benefits. So should you need assistance in the future, we look forward to the opportunity to help you with your disability claim.